Thank you. Good morning, Minister Čaputović, Ambassador Razzoni, dear Director Gisladotir, dear Mr. Desir, Ambassador Zanier, distinguished guests, Excellencies. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to represent the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly at the opening of this year's Human Dimension Implementation meeting. At the onset, let me thank the Italian chairmanship, of course, of the OSCE and the OSCE Office of Democratic Institutions and Human Rights for organizing this very important event. I'm happy that we are gathered today despite difficulties in agreeing to an agenda in the OSCE Permanent Council. Finding consensus is always a challenge. Even in the Parliamentary Assembly, we still have sharp disagreements. But what our experience shows, and you all know that as well, is that direct and constructive dialogue is always the best way forward. We are here entrusted by our citizens to solve problems and to find solutions to their complicated lives. And let us not needlessly and further obstacles to make obstacles, and I hope this is the spirit that everybody here will share and approach their work in the coming weeks. With that in mind, and with the aim of ensuring the efficient operation of our organization, the OSCE has formulated and implemented several changes to the consensus rule. Those should perhaps be considered by participating states to strengthen the impact of the OSCE's work. Ladies and gentlemen, the Human Dimension Implementation meeting serves a crucial purpose in the work of the OSCE by bringing together in the same room representatives from civil society organizations and ambassadors from the OSCE countries, and it offers a unique opportunity to breathe grassroots energy into the work of the OSCE. All of us gathered today must recognize that a pluralistic and strong civil society is indispensable and to functioning democracy and vital to promote and protect human rights. Your participation in our work is most welcome. Of course, some countries will see their practices criticized during this meeting. Open dialogue on controversial issues must continue, and opposing views must be allowed to be heard by all in order to successfully work together towards implementing our commitments. Although some countries might feel singled out, the truth is that no one should be immune from well-grounded criticism. Reviewing the implementation of our commitments is something that should be done not only every year here in Warsaw, but every single day in our home countries. This should be at the heart of our political action. Distinguished guests, in many ways, this meeting is complementary of the work we undertake with the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. All of you well know the human dimension is referred to as the third dimension of the OSCE's comprehensive approach to security. But I would say that the human dimension should always be our first priority. When we put out OSCE hats on, our primary goal is to better the lives of the more than 1 billion people of the OSCE area. Our duty to respond to their desire to live in a free society, where democratic debate is encouraged and not stifled, where journalists are respected and not jailed or killed, where a simple citizen can trust that his or her voice counts and is not discarded. And so today, let me reiterate the political support of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly when it comes to implementing the human dimension commitments to which our governments have pledged. As representatives of the people, we are the critical link between the citizens and their governments. We are here to channel your concerns and work together to hold OSCE countries accountable. The OSCE Berlin Declaration, adopted last July, identifies several priority areas where greater attention is required to promote human security in the OSCE area. Let me here mention a few, which no doubt will be debated in greater detail over the coming days. The refugee and migrant crisis continues to occupy a prominent place on the international agenda and the work of the Parliamentary Assembly. This is the case not only in the Mediterranean, but also in North America, as we've seen in recent months. We believe it's the duty of the OSCE countries to protect the rights of migrants and refugees, especially their freedom from arbitrary detention. It is also our collective expectation that our governments refrain from forced returns of refugees and asylum seekers to countries where they could face torture or inhuman treatment. Together, we must actively work on the integration of refugees and protect their rights to family reunification, with particular consideration for women and accompanied minors. But above all, we must work together to stop the tragedies and hardship that force people to flee their homes. This requires all of us, NGOs, politicians, and administrators, to work in concert. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to also see there will be discussion on national minorities' rights issues during this meeting. There are a number of non-implemented commitments in this field that require attention, and working together with the High Commissioner Zanier and the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, we also plan to increase our efforts and contribution in this area. In an interconnected world increasingly characterized by the spread of disinformation and propaganda, we need to redouble efforts to promote media and digital literacy to increase the resistance to our societies to fake news. Allow me here to use this opportunity to also thank OSCE representative of freedom of media for his excellent work in countering this challenge. As we discussed in Berlin, there is an urgent need to restore the status of free and independent journalism as a central source of credible and reliable information to counter the growing international chaos. Finally, as one of the few publicly elected people in this room, I would like to bring your attention to the area of elections and to election observation in particular. Our debates in Berlin confirmed the growing concern over the proliferation of unprofessional and biased election monitoring, often promoted by host governments and national parliaments. This has unfortunate consequence of undermining public trust in election observation overall. Sitting here together today alongside the dear Director Gisela Dotir, let me underscore the highly valued work of the OSCE's election observation and its activities, characterized by political leadership underpinned by credible long-term analysis. Our organization possesses the strong asset recognized throughout the world, and we must do all that we can to continue to protect it. This also requires our organization to constantly refine its practices to avoid any possible appearance of conflict of interest or corruption. As we regularly ask from our national parliaments and our colleagues, we must also ask the OSCE participating states refrain from participating in observation activities which are neither transparent or based on a systematic methodology. Distinguished guests, over the next dozen days and maybe years, many creative ideas and practices will be shared here. I encourage all participants to seize this opportunity, really a unique opportunity for dialogue. But of course, discussions and debates will never be enough. Political will is necessary to put all these ideas into practice. The Parliamentary Assembly significantly stepped up its engagement with the HDIM this year, and 5 or 6 members of our Bureau, the leadership, will be in attendance. With this in mind, the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly looks forward to working with all of our partners around this table today, participating states, OSCE institutions, the broader international community, and the civil society, to promote accountability and advance human security for all across the OSCE area. I wish you all a successful session and conference, and thank you very much.